they all aspire to be out there on the court. That's no doubt, right? But again, another mantra that, in order to get the role we want, we have to nail the role we have.
Welcome to the Confident Podcast. I am Lisa Tarkington, your guide to mastering confidence in leadership. As a business and leadership coach, keynote speaker, and the founder behind the nonprofit Lead, I am here to equip you with the confidence, clarity, and strategy to create game-changing results so that you can step into your power as the person that you are meant to be. If you press play today, it's because you're ready for something bigger. Each episode, I'll bring you real, raw conversations and actionable insights that will empower you to redefine your leadership, reclaim your confidence, and transform into the unstoppable force you've always been known to be. This isn't just another podcast. It's your journey that we're on together. So buckle up and let's dive into this transformation. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Confident Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Tarkington. And today I am not solo doing this podcast. I am bringing on two amazing guests. We are going to be talking about lessons in coaching at the highest level. I'm bringing on head coach Cathy George, and she's also the VP of volleyball operations for Grand Rapids Rise, along with associate head coach Mike Gawlik. He is tremendous. They are both amazing individuals. I actually met them when I worked at MSU. I'm going to share a little bit about that in my intro with them. But it's really, really fun to think about full circle how I get to bring them onto the podcast. But here's a little bit about them because I think that their stories are amazing. So Cathy brings nearly 4 decades of coaching experience and a legacy of building championship level teams. She has been at Michigan State University and a variety of other schools, as well as now she's guiding Rise to the league's title match, which she has done. And she has leadership rooted in resilience, growth, and connection. Cathy is someone that I have enjoyed watching over the years and learning from her from afar. And Mike serves as the associate head coach for the Grand Rapids Rise, and he's been reunited with Cathy after years together at working at Michigan State, and that's where I met both of them. He has worked as a head coach at Central Michigan University, and now he is joining Cathy, and I love the conversation that I got to have with both of them about their skills, what they bring to the table, and how it's different than their years working in college. So if you haven't heard, the Grand Rapids Rise is a premier professional volleyball team in the Major League Volleyball League. It was established in 2004, and it's based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And the team reached the championship in their inaugural year of 2024. I think it's really awesome to see how volleyball has grown over the years, to learn from Cathy, to learn from Mike, and just see where we're going to be in a few years with volleyball. It's also really cool. It's a sport that I've loved my whole life. I played all through high school, did not play at the college level, but I just really enjoyed that experience. I also got to see the physical and mental areas that it brought out in me. And it's also really cool to see what it's done for college and what it's done to the next level with pros, and that we get the opportunity to bring women home to the United States to do this as well. So let's dive into my conversation with them. All right. Well, welcome Cathy and Mike to the Confident Podcast. I'm glad that you guys were able to join us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's going to be
fun.
fun.
For having us. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you guys too. So I have to share with the audience. You guys might not even remember, but I worked with you guys back in 2009. 2009, 2010, when you guys were coaching at Michigan State, I was doing stats behind the scenes, working. I was an intern for the volleyball team as well, doing the special events, doing some marketing. That was my first internship that I ever had in college. I was going to Michigan State for communications and PR. So it's funny to see how you guys are full circle back to coaching together. It's also really cool to have you on my podcast, but it was really fun because I played volleyball my whole life, didn't want to play in college. And instead I got to do the stats, which now I tell people all the time, like I have so much love for people that have to do stats because it is so fun, but you have to be so focused the whole time you're doing it. I did also the men's basketball team and women's basketball team too. So all very different, but I loved Michigan State and I loved watching your guys' journeys, which has changed a lot since then, which is pretty cool. So Cathy, you came out of retirement to coach the Grand Rapids Rise volleyball team. So what made you want to get out of retirement to do that?
Well, I had stepped away from Michigan State with my mom in hospice and just all the things that were happening at the time. We're just coming out of COVID, all the things, and just trying to focus a little bit more on her and doing all of that. So it worked out really well in the fact that when I left, she lived another 10 months, believe it or not, through the hospice. But then when she passed, I got a call from the people that were putting together the Grand Rapids Rise. And it was the first franchise that was started in the entire league. And they asked me to be their first coach. I thought they were asking me to consult. They were asking me to coach. I was like, oh, okay. I thought I retired from that. But as we started to talk, I was going, you know what? This is really important. It's a really important step in women's volleyball over here. And so if not me, who? If not now, when? And I just wanted to make sure that this got up and running and going to the level to provide these opportunities for women that have been playing overseas for years and haven't had the luxury of living in their own country. So it was important to me as a cause and then as coaching.
Yeah. So did you get to call these women up and say like, hey, come home,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I absolutely. I remember not being in the offices here until May, but I was kind of hired in December, I think it was, and just looking at tons of film from players overseas, talking to them on the phone, really trying to figure out how do we get them to say, we'll go with this. We don't know what it is, but we'll go with it. And I was the first coach out there doing that and pushing that narrative. And so it was interesting, but we ended up putting together a team, and as did all these other teams started to come on board. And it was a pretty cool first year to see the growth and everything else and where it is now.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And Mike, you came from Central Michigan University. Well, Michigan State, and I don't know if you were anywhere in between Central, but then you moved on. You followed Cathy, right? I'm sure she probably called you up and was like, hey, I want you. Yeah, I'd love to hear about that transition for you.
Yeah, so I spent 11 years at Michigan State with Cathy and grew in my role there from being a volunteer all the way up to an associate head coach kind of by the time I left. And communicating with Cathy just in my professional process, I had expressed to her that I was looking at an opportunity to become a head coach. I wanted to follow in her footsteps, from that standpoint. And so when Central Michigan opened up, being in a similar recruiting territory and a lot of the same ties, and I knew a lot of people kind of in this area, high school coaches, club coaches, it was just a real good fit. And so when we moved up to Mount Pleasant, we were, we spent 9 years up there. My wife and I, we had a family up there. I have a daughter. And so, we really enjoyed our time in Mount Pleasant, right? And at Central Michigan University, being a head coach there, found a little bit of success, but from a family perspective, it made a lot of sense to get closer to a bigger area for Grand Rapids. And so when Cathy, had conversations with me both in year one and then year two, being like, hey, how can we, what would it take to kind of have you get the band back together, right? And it was such an exciting opportunity. It was something that fit from a family perspective. My wife is on staff as well, so we get a chance to coach together as well with Cathy. And so it was a really cool opportunity to be a part of something at the time, which was very groundbreaking or re-groundbreaking, bringing professional volleyball back to the United States, which hadn't been here in quite a long time. And so to be a part of that, to work with athletes that are just so incredibly gifted physically and driven mentally, is a neat opportunity to be a part of that. And going, back into an assisting role is something that I liked being an assistant coach. I really liked being a head coach, but just kind of challenging ourselves professionally to kind of stretch and work with athletes that are in a different space as far as what they're capable of doing was just a really exciting opportunity. So couldn't let it slip away.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you said bring the band back together, because sometimes it's like that full circle. It's like, let's do this again. We've learned a lot along the way to like bring us back to even be better. And Mike, I didn't know that you said that you were a volunteer coach and then you worked your way up. So, okay, I have a question for you, because right now we live in a world of instant gratification, and we hear all the time from these kids. I'm going to call them kids because, they're younger than me. I hear them like, I want to be here, right? So how did that, tell me how you were patient and how you work through that, because I'd love to hear that.
Well, I think the coaching ladder was maybe looked different back then a
Mm,
little bit. And it was like, if you want to get your foot in the door, you kind of got to do some of the grunt work, right? And I
Yeah.
looked at a couple of places to volunteer at to kind of learn what college coaching was like, and certainly at a school that was a little bit bigger. And when I met with Cathy when I was 22 years old, I was right out of school, and I remember one of the things she said. I was looking at a school that maybe had a higher profile in that moment, and she said, if you want to learn, if you want to go into coaching, you should learn from a team that's a rebuild, because you don't typically start near the top, right? Like if you're going to
mm,
coach, you're going to have to coach from a team that needs help, and you're going to get your hands dirty here, and we're going to, we need help, and we need help in a lot of phases. You're going to learn a lot, and I remember being drawn to that, and so when I had an opportunity to join her in Michigan State, which was right in Cathy's first year. She was there about 8 months prior to me being there, but her first fall season, it was just a really neat opportunity, I think, to be in at ground level, and I learned a lot, and I brought a lot of that to Central Michigan, when we were kind of trying to rebuild that program, and I think that there's a lot to be learned there. I've always been very loyal to Cathy because she was very loyal to me. When then I volunteered for really the better part of one season, the job opened up in the off season, and I know that Cathy had a stack of resumes that maybe had more years of experience, but she took a chance on me as a young kid, and so I've tried to do right by that, and work hard to catch up to the inexperience that I had, but learn quickly and try not to make the same mistakes twice. And so I've never regretted that, and I've been put in a pretty good spot because of some of those decisions.
Love that.
Lisa, let me
Yeah.
also say to
Yeah.
you that like Mike didn't get it just because he was our volunteer. Mike got it because he earned it with how he went about his business. He worked tirelessly. He didn't say, how much am I getting paid? He didn't say, oh, I've got other things to do. It's after hours. He did what it took to help our program be great. And he's intelligent. He can handle tough situations. He's very unemotional, but practical, like really logical with the way he thinks. But he did things well beyond his youth. And I did have a stack of resumes, but the way that he was able to pounce on getting things done by finding solutions rather than tell me what to do and put it on a checklist for me. And that is a very unique gift. And I don't care that we're in this world now or then, that is still one of the most valued qualities for anybody to get a job in any field. It's how do you do those things and don't have to be handheld. So, it is still what I look for in people. It's still what we need, because if I wanted to do everything myself, I would just hire myself, and I would just, you know what I mean? But we need really quality people around us that can handle the roles that they're given, and also push themselves to be even better than that, and come alongside and be like an associate head coach. And that's what he elevated himself into based on the quality of work he did.
I love that. And thanks for sharing that, because I think, to your point, it's showing up, but it's that next level. And I think that's hard for people, right? There's like I always say, like, all the tabs are open in their brain of where they'd rather be sometimes, right? But then when they put the work in, they're like, oh, the reward is there. It just doesn't happen overnight sometimes.
Yeah.
So kudos to you, Mike, as well, for doing that stuff, because I think it's important right now in this world and
Huge thing.
in where we're going. So I'm going to segue us a little bit to coaching, right? Coaching these athletes, getting them to the next level, getting you guys to the next level as an organization. Obviously, you're not going from college anymore to helping them get to the pros. You are the pros, right? You are that level. And so what do you guys do intentionally to build players' confidence? And before you answer that, I want to share why I'm asking this. Is so I get to be that person that gets to sit on their couch and watch sports from my home and make, thoughts in my head of like what should have done, and I'm talking about, like, we were just watching the NFL this weekend, right? The playoffs were on. And I always also think when someone's making a mistake, I put myself back into the shoes of when I would get into my own head as an athlete, and how you sit there and you can have that downward spiral, those confidence builders and pieces. So what would you say now, with being in the position that you guys are in and seeing the team? How do you help them build that confidence?
Well, I first of all think that confidence is an interesting word, and you say it, and a lot of people think that people give that to them through their compliments and what they do. Where I think even at this level, there are confidence issues in every single one of these players, as you'll see when you watch college football, pro football, whatever it is. But it's how do you handle those moments, and do you do it fearlessly without you're doing it to the best of your ability, just go for it and find out and continue to learn from the goods and the bads and use it as information. And if you can change that narrative to it's information, it's not failure, it's not it's you have to risk in order to find that, and then that's what you've got on your back. You now know that if you push through, you can get there, but there's such a resistance to that, and it's gotten worse over the years because nobody wants to be seen on social media or anywhere else as a failure. So it's harder to even push that now because we play cautious. And in my mind, cautious causes errors. And cautious just doesn't give you the results you want. So my thing is always pushing them to risk more and to fight through that and find the answer. And so that if we can equip them with some of the answers, then they try it, and you like at practice, I'm going, try it. I don't care if you miss out on that. I'm not keeping your stats to say you were trying these things, and I can tell when they're trying it or just flat out making errors.
Yeah.
The stats don't always say that, right? They don't know which one you're doing, but I do think it tells you like they're really working to improve, and those things will give you they'll give you the confidence in those moments to try it, because now it's not brand new in the moment. So that's kind of how I look at things that way. And I often, my son, he would be pitching, and I said, if I came up and somebody just belted a bunch of home runs out of there and whatever, and I said, honey, you did a great job. He doesn't believe me. There's no credibility in what I said. But if we get him back up on the mound and we're saying, just go fearlessly, go, this is you, just equip yourself in the moment. You do those things. That's where he'll, take a step up and take a step up. And that's where we have to do is get them to conquer that anxiety over going for it.
Love that. Mike, would you add anything to that?
A little bit, I guess. I think confidence is the understanding that that our good is good enough to be competitive or good enough to win. And so, when we feel prepared and we feel like, okay, now it's just about putting my best game out there or my best, level of effort. If I was playing in the NBA, I know I'm not good enough, even if I play well, right? But if we get these athletes into a place where they feel confident to just say, if I play my best, I'm going to be right in this thing, or I'm going to put myself in a position to win. And so that comes down to being prepared. I think each athlete prepares differently. Some like a lot of feedback, some like one-on-one, some like some space to just work things out. And so I think that any coach in any sport is really just trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to connect with this athlete so that they feel prepared? And then all the things that Cathy said, right? So that they can play fearless, so that they can just let loose and play free in a big moment, because they're not thinking about all of these checklist things that coach said, but they're using all of those things to play as free as they possibly can. And I think when an athlete knows that their better is better than another team's better, now it doesn't matter what the other team does. We don't need them to play poorly to win. We don't need them to make mistakes for us to win. We can just focus on how well can we play and how long can we continue to be consistent playing at that level. And if that's the case, we're confident that we're going to be in a good spot to win a lot of games or all the games or find success on the court. So I think that looks different for each athlete, but I think that, communicating with them about finding out what they need to feel prepared is a really important part of confidence.
Yeah. And I think, oh God. Yeah. Go ahead, Cathy.
I think that preparation is absolutely key. And that's where like your practice is. This is where a lot of young people don't think that you need to practice hard or focus or be intentional. They're wasting time by not doing that, because that is the ultimate in, if you're prepared, you are working towards all the little things, all the details, all the little things, and you're getting better. That is your time to test some things out. Because if you test them out and now all of a sudden you get that breakthrough, that confidence does come because you've prepared for that moment. And like Mike said, he was alluding to this too, but I mean, there's so many different levels. Now we've got people that are 35 all the way to 22. The age range is so different, but it's the same, right? It still is the same. And we think of it as so different, but everything he said really is true. And however you get that place, it isn't, it is something each player has to do in order to get there. It's not somebody can give it to them. And so I think, that's important that they recognize their power that they have within them to do these things.
I also think of when you guys were saying that's kind of the boring piece sometimes too, right? It's that repetition piece. Like it's like, okay, like, and you have to keep like failing at those things. And people nowadays don't always love that, right? They're like, give me the lights, give me the like, I'll show you then, right? And I love that you guys are saying this because it's also like, hey, behind the scenes is really where the work gets done. You always hear, there's a lot of quotes coming out right now with the new year of like successes, discipline. And discipline sometimes can look a little boring because you're you might be actually trying something and you could quote unquote not do it well for so long. And then it clicks, right? And you're like, I got it. And I imagine as a coach, it's really cool. And you're like watching that person be like, I got it. I've been working on this, but they didn't give up. I think that's, separates people as well. And as you guys were talking, the analogy I use a lot with confidence is at one point we all rode, we started with training wheels, right, on a bike. And over time, we've gotten, on bigger bikes. And then we like become adults. And now we're helping, the youth. And it's that confidence over time of we fall, we take the training wheels off. And it's the same thing for anybody in any role, And I think that's really cool that your athletes get to enjoy that. Yeah.
You mentioned one thing about the I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to add that I think it's important as coaches or anybody in a coaching position to then catch those little incremental improvements that they have, because sometimes it is hard to see for the athlete it's a grind, right? And it is slow and it's a slow burn, right? So catching them kind of finding success because they're really just looking at, well, I want to be great over here, but they're not seeing that they're actually taking little steps towards that. And I think there's a lot of, I buy into the phrase, catch them being great. And I feel like that's really confidence building. So, if you're working on something in the gym, Cathy, did this the other day where, somebody makes a play that we're working on and it's not successful in that moment, but even just the risk to put it out there is going to get us closer to that. So making sure that the athlete's not reframing short-term failure as being, I should not do this anymore, as opposed to, I got to keep risking that, right? And I think when coaches or anybody in a position of leadership is rewarding the chance, right? Now they're going to do it more and we'll get better at that. So just kind of like catching them doing the little things in that period of time. Because I think sometimes athletes, I can remember as an athlete myself, you just only see excellence being a destination and you forget that you're on a path. And so sometimes pointing out that they're taking steps, even though we're not at our destination yet, but it is a confidence builder because it just says, hey, you're on your way and don't turn back. Right. So I think catching them doing it well is an important element there.
Love that. Yeah. That celebration piece. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Cathy, were you going to add?
Absolutely love that. I think to me, the most exciting part about coaching is when they do that, when they totally risk it and they get it. And, we had a player that we went down in a battle with a team. And at the end of the game, she took 2 shots in a row that she, we had been trying to get her to do. And then she finally does it. And I'm so pumped up on that moment. And people think it's just because we won the point. It had nothing to do with that. It had everything in the world to do with that she did it. I was so happy that she did it. And those are the fun, to me, that's the most enjoyable part is when they do something that we know they've been struggling doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and again, you're like, okay, I have been waiting for this moment for you, but I'm proud of you also for the work that you did and that you didn't give up. I think that that's a continuous thing that you guys are saying is risk and not giving up and knowing that you'll fail for a while in order to get there. Mm-hmm. I think one thing I'm curious on is it's very, and I don't have this answer, so I'm very curious for you guys. Is it more physical or more mental when it comes to volleyball? Do you think at the level that you're at?
I think that the physicality comes, we have to have a certain physicality to play here, to play at this level. There's no doubt about that. So that does play a factor, but there's people that have the it thing. And the it is that ability to play in crunch time, the ability to take care of all the little things. Sometimes the unnoticed are some of your most stable players and so there's all sorts of things, but you have to know that just because I've been given all these physical qualities doesn't mean that I'm a great player. If you don't work on your craft, if you don't try to, take care of all the little things, people are going to pass you by every day. And it's what you're doing with the attention to detail, how I'm working towards this thing. You say it's a goal. So then how do I set myself up? And like Mike said, the process of becoming great, it is everybody's job to do that. It's like we know these pros. It's like this is their career. So they know I have to eat right, I have to sleep right, I have to do these things if I want to get there. And then it's tackling all these little moments and how do I become, in each skill, in each thing that we do, how do I become the best at that? By staying in the moment, executing, and it's kind of like that's what we should focus on. So many people have the distractions of the focus of how does the coach think I'm doing? How do my teammates think I'm doing? How do mom and dad think I'm doing? They're so distracted on how social media sees them. It's taking them away from the beautiful truth of it's right there. And like let's stay in that moment. Daniel Coyle is an author and a psychologist, a sports psychologist, and he was talking about studies that they did a test with American students and some Asian students on a math test, and they gave them this impossible problem to solve. And the time on task for the American children was 2 minutes.
Wow.
Where their counterparts were going out there and they were on that thing for 40 minutes. But we've gotten so, if we can't get it immediately, we're done. And so it's kind of like me sometimes with computers, right, Mike? I'm always like, Mike, get in here, help me out. So I don't stay with it. I have a genius across the way from here, so I've learned helplessness, right? So
Yep.
you have to kind of like stay at things if you're going to learn things, and so it's the same truth, and we can't keep running away from that part.
Yeah, love that. Mike, would you add anything with the mental, physical?
I think it probably feels like the right answer is, oh, it's all mental. But I mean, the truth is you can't win the Derby on a donkey, right? Like you gotta have some skill. Now, when you're dealing with a bunch of people who all have a bunch of physical skill, I think, the mental element is vital, to keeping you in that moment and maintaining that confidence. And if you're good today, you got to be working to be great tomorrow. So like, I think that there's the ability to play at your max level night after night through, fatigue or through, a little bit of short-term failure or loss or those types of things, I think is definitely a mental skill. But, the physicality of any sport as it pertains to that sport, I think is certainly a huge element, right? That's a big piece of it. But I think the differentiator amongst people that all have that physicality then is probably that mental side that kind of keeps people in that moment.
Yeah.
Mike said this. He said, the circumstances, all these different things that are happening are circumstances around me, and they can distract me and bring me out here where that stability comes from staying right where you are and kind of focusing on what you're doing. And that focus is the thing that keeps you, can help build those mental qualities, throughout. And that's the kind of player that we need then, is somebody that night in and night out we can count on for them to be at this level, that we know what that level looks like. And it's brought every day, regardless of if it's 10 degrees out or, whatever else it is, that today is a day, and they can learn to be tough in those ways. That really is that's also another confidence thing. They build that and they know they have it.
Yeah, I love that. And when you guys were saying that, I just kept thinking about how many times it's very easy to not stay in your lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And veer off into, social media. This is going on. And when you stay like that focus, how that success can look, not only for yourself, but your team. And speaking of team, I'd love, obviously there's only a certain amount of players on a court at a time, right? Mm-hmm. And so having the bench, and people that are there, coming in and out and cheering you on is important. I recently went to a college game, not volleyball, but a different sport, and the bench was so quiet. And I was sitting behind the bench and I could hear people being like, man, what is going on? They are not helping the team at all. And so how does that look for you guys to set that up as a team to make sure that everybody has that energy? There's no perfect time to focus on your health. There's just now. And for me, sustainable health has never been about doing everything perfect. It's about being consistent. And that's why AG1 has been part of my daily routine for years. Every single morning before coffee and before I start working, I mix 1 scoop of AG1 into water. 20 seconds, that's it. And it's been a micro habit that anchors everything that I do for my health. AG1 simplifies nutrition in a way that actually works. You get multivitamins, pre and probiotics, superfoods, all in one scoop. No piles of supplements and no overthinking. And their next gen formula is even better. They've added more vitamins and minerals than ever, all clinically approved to help fill common nutrition gaps. It's the opposite of complexity and exactly what consistency needs. And I'll say this clearly because it matters. I use this literally every single day, and so does my family. AG1 now comes in original, citrus, berry, and tropical. And honestly, original is still my favorite, but they are all great, and I would love for you to experience them. AG1 has more than 50,000 verified 5-star reviews and comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee so that there's zero risk in trying. For a limited time only, go to drinkag1.com/theconfident and get a free AG1 flavor sampler and an AGZ sampler to try all the flavors, plus a free vitamin D3 plus K2 and an AG1 vitamin kit with your first AG1 subscription order. This is a limited time offer, only available while supplies last. Again, it's drinkag1.com/theconfident. And I look forward to hearing how much you love it just as much as I do.
I want to tell you about this film. Well, I'm not going to have me say it. I'm going to have Mike talk to you about. We do film sessions afterwards, okay. And it was really important to us to make sure that quality was brought out. Mike, go ahead and tell them about that.
Well, we had beaten a team the other day, and we were watching some video. But one of the things that we were highlighting in front of the whole team was our bench celebrations, and it's one of those things that, again, I buy into my little mantras, but that which gets rewarded gets repeated, right? So after big plays on the court, we would obviously talk the volleyball element and the on the court celebrations, but then we would draw everybody's attention to the bench and, goofing on people, but just showing the genuine excitement that they have for their teammates. And I think the neat thing is that in our world, the professional volleyball world, a lot of these athletes are in that kind of role in some cases for the very first time because they came from being, stars of high school and collegiate teams. That's why they're on the roster that they're on, right? And so to have that genuine investment in their teammates and, they all aspire to be out there on the court. That's no doubt, right? But again, another mantra that, in order to get the role we want, we have to nail the role we have. And so being in a position of giving back to the people on the court to stay mentally engaged in the game, it's hard to have that kind of energy and not be mentally locked into what's happening on the court. I think, gives coaches in general, I know, Cathy can speak to this, but when you look down at the end and you see that your bench is all in on play to play, it gives you a lot of confidence that, hey, if they're called upon, they're mentally checked into what's happening and they're mentally engaged and they're emotionally invested and they're going to be ready for their moment when their moment comes. And so I just think we think that's something in our program that even at the professional level, we're calling out the goofiness and the authenticity of our bench, just getting excited for each other. And I think at any organization or certainly any team, that just is something, if you want to see that, you've got to call attention to it and reward it when you see it. So.
And Lisa, the most exciting thing from that, even from there, is the people that were on the court were so excited and so appreciative, and they felt connected. And so it wasn't starters, non-starters. It was like they felt, they were like, oh my gosh, look at what these guys are doing. And it just brought them even closer together through that kind of moment. And I think it's really important that they both respect and love each other and work together, because collaborating and learning to be a good teammate is huge, as we know. And that's something, and that's a quality for life, and not just being on an athletic team.
Yeah. And I love that you guys actually have it on film too, right? And actually point it out. I think that is, maybe I'll be sharing this with this college team a little bit, right? Like, because, it does make a difference. And you're right. Like if I was out on the court and I saw the bench getting excited too, I know we're a team, right? And how we collectively build that. So I'm going to segue. Yeah, go ahead.
Coach K over at Duke actually had a staff member on the other side of their bench always filming the bench. So if you didn't catch it, if you didn't have it on your camera, you could have it on that camera. And like if there was somebody that was pouting and brooding, he would bring them in and say, listen, this is acceptable. This is what we need from you. This is how you're going to, this is going to improve your moments, but you're not going to, like Mike said, you look down at the bench, and if they're totally not engaged, they are not ready to go in the game. they're getting less playing time. You're seeing them celebrate that moment, being emotionally invested. You're like, yeah, they're into it. Let's go. So there's a big difference. And I think, but we didn't do that for that reason. I just think they genuinely did it. And we wanted to make sure that everybody saw it because they were phenomenal. And we didn't know how they were going to be because we had just started the season and, this is a new group of players. So they really showed us that, this is pretty awesome.
Well, and I think what you guys were saying about them being ready, I've actually never thought about that, right? Like in my head, obviously I'm not a coach at your guys' level, so you always just get to see like who goes in. But to your point, like you guys are mentally looking at those pieces too of like, okay, are they ready, right? Can I quote unquote trust them to go out there and lead that way? So I think that's a fascinating thing for just leaders in general. Like I think about leaders in the workplace a lot of just, okay, is that person ready to move to the next level? When they're looking at have they been checked in, how they do that. And I think that these are just like great metaphors and examples of how it looks just in general across the board for different people. So thinking about how that's important for you guys as helping the athletes, I think it's also important to talk about your guys' relationship, right? Like you guys used to work together, you had that, had a break, and now you guys are back. And Mike, you also said that you work with your wife. So I have to ask, what's that like, right? To be working with your wife and obviously you go home and your partner's there too. So how do you guys, maybe separate the work and life or don't you as well?
I love working with my wife. A lot of people say that, I feel like people, when they hear that, they're kind of caught off guard by that. Like but that's to each their own.
Yeah.
I like sharing, my profession with Katie. My wife, she worked with me at Central Michigan for 7 of the 9 years that I was there. And she played at the University of Michigan and was an All-American and played professionally as well. So she just has always had a really great volleyball perspective, that I was always bouncing things off of, whether she was on staff or not. And so getting a chance to work with her, I think just intertwines kind of like the ebbs and flows of being a coach professionally, both at the professional level or collegiately. It's like it can be a lonely place being a coach without having anybody to talk to about it. So I think we are constantly looking for that balance a little bit, right? Like we do talk about volleyball at home probably more than we should, but we also love what we do and it's important to us. And it's so, sometimes we have to draw lines and turn volleyball off at home, but more times than not, I think we keep those conversations in check and are allowing ourselves to be a family. And like I said, we have a daughter and that family time, it's important to clock out sometimes to maintain that family dynamic. And at the same time, when you love what you do, sometimes that it's not a 9 to 5 and it's never been, right, for coaches. So I enjoy working with her because it just kind of keeps her connected to what we're doing and we're all in. So having the opportunity to work with, Cathy again but still work together to have us both on staff is a really neat thing, at least in my opinion, but I get that reaction from people a lot. Like I could never. And I'm like,
yeah, but I love that you also just said like it's not a 9 to 5, right? Like you eat, breathe, sleep it in a way, right? And it's not for everybody, but I also think there are people that are like love that, right? And I joke all the time with, my husband, we have very different careers, right? Like our and that's great for us, but at the same time, like I could talk about business and leadership 24/7 if he let me, which he does, but he doesn't always have everything to share. So I think that's also great. Like, I think everybody's is just different. And so that's why I had to ask, like, what is it like? Because I don't get that experience, which is really cool that you do, and also you guys have worked together and I would always say, like, probably based off of what your guys' relationship is you guys have your own strengths and weaknesses, right? Where you can caveat on each other. So what would you say is both of your zones of genius and how do they kind of help each other out to build out the team better?
Well, I think that like whenever you're in a position, head coaching, you don't want to find exactly you. You need to find people that are different than you in order to complete the group. And so with Mike, I felt right away he completed me. In fact, he completes my sentences. He completes my my thought process, all of that. But I think he's a very good communicator. Is able to, when I get rushed and I'm that person that's just so intense and all these different things, he's able to put that into places and compliment me. He's able to spar with me over different ideas, and not take anything personal, but kind of like, these are two ideas that might be differing. How do we find that place? But I love the fact that we can do that, because as you're going through a process to find out what's best, what's the best way, not what's my way. I think it's important that you're able to trust a person that you're with to go through all of those scenarios and then come up with what might work. And he's had an ability to do that, but he's also a tremendously hard worker, and he does find a way. He's willing to work hard all the time and is all in. And that it's kind of interesting with Katie. I think like she's able to. It's in a way for him. He can talk volleyball, and they can kind of sort some of that stuff out too. Some of the things that they think, and then bring that to the table, and kind of different philosophies all the way across. And what is the best thing out of pulling it all together and going into the team with what we have. So a lot of trust there from me to Mike, and I know that he's has the best interest of our programs, and that's something that I knew right away when he was in, when we took him as a 22-year-old, and then moving on here, it's really great. I mean, he's fantastic at what he does, so we're real happy to have him here.
Yeah, I love
Well,
that.
I think it's important for staffs to balance each other out, and I think that, that's a little bit of a balance game kind of on a daily basis. If one coach has to be in the same role all the time, sometimes they get, so if Cathy is a little bit more, goofy positive, then I might have to be a little bit more critical. If Cathy's a little bit more critical, I might have to be a little bit more supportive. And I think any staff, all 3-4 members kind of at the same time, are trying to kind of balance out those things, and to hit every kind of player on any given day. But I think a good assistant coach, I try to value trying to be. Cathy is our head coach, but I want to be a good neck for the program, and I think that makes making sure that the head is looking in all directions to have the brain make good decisions. The neck is not the brain; Cathy's the brain, but making sure that we're kind of swiveling, and looking and taking into consideration everything that needs to be taken into consideration to make a responsible decision, I think, is the role of any assistant coach in any sport. And I think that, if Cathy's singularly focused on one thing, and I'm like, hey, we're not considering A, B, and C over here, I've got to try to turn her head over here and make her at least consider those options. But again, the brain is in the head, and that's what Cathy's role is with our program. We just, as a staff, want to make sure that she's scanning everything she needs to make the best decisions possible.
Love that.
And I'm dealing with like a lot of other things too with this role that are outside of the volleyball part. And so it's really nice to know that, Mike has his mind stayed on that area, so that we can kind of, I know he's able to do these things when I'm maybe off with the admin of it and the marketing and the whatever else, the, TV stuff, whatever those things are. And then I can come in and he's already processing. And I know that we think a lot alike in terms of what we know needs to happen. So I'm able to say to him, hey, can you start doing this? And I know it's getting done. And that's a fantastic thing. So that's the part, I wish if it was just volleyball, it's a lot different, but it's not just volleyball. This is a professional team and a professional league. And there's a lot going on outside of it, especially with the startup.
Yeah, I saw that your title was also operations too, not just
and
head
GM.
coach. And wow,
So,
yes.
Vice president.
Yes,
So
it's all
there's
the
just
things.
little things that come, and they come out of the woodwork at you, because there's no rhyme or reason. So that can take you away from a thought or a thing or something that you're really trying to put your time into. And that's where Mike, being as quality as he is able to kind of pick it up right where it is, and we can, still move forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So do you guys have your own coaches in life, or any outlets that you have to help you with your coaching or mentally or anything?
I think when Mike talked about having Katie, I think that's super cool, because it's a very lonely space. When being in the Big Ten, when we were there, who do you talk to? Because you can't tell them what your problems are, because you're playing against them. Everybody you're playing against, it's where is that person that you can say all of the problems that you have and really go to them and sort out where you fit. So I found it very lonely as I was going through it. At that level, I think that over time I've had some other retired coaches that I can talk to now, but it wasn't there during that time. And so, Katie being as quality as she is, knowing volleyball like she does, and that's the nice thing. And now I feel really, I'm really blessed with the fact that like I can mentor now people that will call me and ask me things, and I feel a lot. It's great. So I'll be totally loyal to them. I don't give any of their secrets away. And it's just, you have to have that. And I really would stress finding a mentor that you can really confide in and know that, that trust is there.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. And I think too, I'm a coach for businesses and leaders. And I think having that outside external, I even say like that psychological safety. You said like, I keep all their secrets, right? Like that's my job, right? And to have that safe place for them to come to bounce the ideas off, to have the skill set to bring those things. But also I truly believe sometimes we have it all in us, right? But we need that outlet because man, when you're in your head, yes. Last week I was working on this project and I thought I had it all figured out. I was all by myself, right? Met with my friend who's also an entrepreneur last week. And I said, this is what I'm thinking. And she was like, what? What if you did it this way? I'm like, yes, right? It's just the outside. But to your point, it can get lonely and it can in a lot of different spaces, right? And I think it's really powerful when you have mentors, when you have coaches. For me, I'm big on investing, like invest in yourself, figure out those pieces so that you can move to the next level. So that's really awesome. So, okay. Fast questions for you guys. So and anybody can answer it, you both can. If confidence was a volleyball skill, what would it be? Would it be serving, blocking, like any of those?
Oh my gosh. You know what though? That's so bad because I can say it's everything because it's how do you have to do the same thing to be confident in all those skills. It's first of all being aggressive enough to be attention to detail, to get the preparation in. It's the same answer for all of them. So I think, that would be my answer.
Yeah, whatever role you have then. Yeah.
Do it to your fullest.
Yeah. Mike, anything come to your mind?
Mine's this is a volleyball specific answer, but attacking overpasses, right? Like when the opportunity jumps on you, are you hitting it hard and are you jumping on the opportunity? Or are you gonna play it a little safer? So I think that's kind of like you could tell a lot about how confident a player is by what they do with that ball.
Oh, yeah, love that.
Well, and that's your answer, Mike, is a lot to do with what shows confidence in that. Yeah. And mine was, it's about the process. So
Yeah,
but you're right.
I'm like picturing myself attacking an overpass, and that already gives me like butterflies because I could just see myself missing it, right? And so, but again, that's not my skill set anymore. Volleyball's been out of my life for a while, so I love that for that answer. Where do you see Rise in professional volleyball headed in the next 5 years?
Well, I don't know if you've been following it, but we have 8 teams. We've had 8 teams since the beginning. We're going into the 3rd year. There's a lot of television outlets that are coming after us to televise the games and working with that. So that is growing the fan base that way. The fan base within all of the places that we're at, it continues to grow. There's a lot of eyes on it. We're getting there. We are adding 3 more teams next year, so we'll be at 11. And the teams, and there's a lot of people that are interested in all of the states. So we're getting there. They're picking quality ownership to make sure that those owners are able and willing to support the team until it's successful financially for them, and to make sure that they can be part of the answer. And so it's just the growth of it is exciting. But I do think people that come to Grand Rapids love it. Like they don't know what volleyball is. They may only remember backyard volleyball or beach volleyball, but they come there and they're like, wow, these women are athletes. They're like, oh my, they're so fast. They jump high. They fly after balls. They're hitting the ground. They're, and they didn't know that this is the level that you could play. And so I think it's become a really a big fan favorite here. So I'm excited about that growth. I'm excited about where it will be in 5 years, because it's just going to start blowing up, and we're giving opportunities to people out of college and the whole thing. And it's just cool.
Yeah. So. I love that. Mike, anything added there?
Not really. Cool. I would echo everything Cathy said. It's an exciting time to be on the ground level. Yeah.
I have to share too, one of the things that you guys have is, I think it's Rise Mom of the Month, right? Or something with
we do.
Your guys' first one, Sue Fish. Jim was my coach in high school.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
So it was really, I saw that and I was like, oh, what a small world. Like to also see that like my coach from high school is doing so well and how my hometown is doing. And then also to see, it continued to progress there. So super cool. I had to share that. What is your go-to pep talk for tough moments? Do you have one?
I think that it's, it's really to, again, trust in yourself, and trust in what you're doing. And I think I do that more one by one with people that you see are doubting themselves or just keep swinging or keep doing this or whatever, and trying to do that. Not in the pep talk piece, but I think every pep talk is a little different based on what we're facing at the moment. And so, it's, are we doubting? It's, do we need to, they're just all different. So, Mike, you probably have more of those. He's kind of got those mantras a little bit more, but I really try to really feel the moment and go there.
Yeah, I don't think there's a one thing. I think it's just I remind myself that it's typically not as bad as you think in the moment, right? Like, you're not as bad as you think you are. You're probably not as good as you think you are either. So how do we just get back to? It's a long season. It's we try not to hyper react to maybe one outcome or one. There's if you win 15-13 in the fifth. And you're on the bus, you're like, we played great tonight. If you lose 13-15, you're like, we were crap tonight. And neither one of those things is that true. It really came down to maybe a pivotal play in a big moment. And there's a skill to winning those types of games. You got to be a little bit better at that. But you just got to kind of get back to working, because it's everything's not broken. I say that a lot. We're not broken, right? We do need to be better, but the sky isn't falling in every category just because the outcome wasn't what we wanted. So I think that's probably my self-reflection in those moments. But
yeah, I love the sky's not falling all the time, because how many times do we think like everything's just going to start to rain and pour because of something, right? Great one. I like that. Okay, if I could give you both 8 hours at work to just focus on one thing that brings you joy, like I call that kind of like your zone of genius, like what would you focus solely on?
I'm dabbling with two, so
okay,
I don't
both.
know.
Yeah.
I love studying volleyball, and I love watching teams play and figure out how they win or lose. And I just love doing the scouting part of all that. I love diving in, and I almost get into a zone, but I do that usually at home. I'm like there, and I just like to watch it and kind of try to figure them out. And it's just really cool. It's I don't know, it's just there. So I love that part of it. Cool. I also love the event side of it, creating environments, which I have less to do with here than Michigan State, but it's still, it's just a big part of getting out in the community, doing things to kind of raise the awareness and raise the excitement, and then seeing, them there and trying to make that such a quality event that it just grows and grows and grows, so that when the baton is passed, it's ready. So I have those two areas of really true enjoyment in this thing.
That's awesome.
I like watching the team element of our game, both on the defensive and offensive side. I love looking at how one player impacts the success of another player, whether it's block and defense. I work a lot with our block and defense, but even offensively, I in these video sessions I love being like, hey, because you did this, look at the opportunity it created for her. She was then able to capitalize on this, and then kind of like that waterfall effect of good volleyball, good team play. And so when we link people together, I think that's a really rewarding way of saying we're playing well together. Volleyball's so fast. You had mentioned like we're in a real tight space for 6 people on the court from a team perspective. Think about a basketball court. There's just more space between teammates, and we've got to coexist in a really small space. We've got a reactionary, it's a rebound sport. We don't get to catch the ball and stop. And so that creating on the fly and that improvisation that a team has to have of playing off of each other is a really wonderful element of volleyball that it has drawn me to it for years. And so, watching and kind of helping players understand how their action over here impacts the butterfly effect of what happens over there, and trying to draw attention to that so that they value that with kind of what we said before. That I just love that element of volleyball. That's defense, that's offense, that's the serving effort, but just kind of like how it kind of impacts the waterfall effect of what happens next, so that people understand the impact of little things or what feel like little things they have on the big picture, right? So
Yeah, I
that's
love those
probably what
answers. And I like how you guys both lit up when you talked about them. I think that's what I teach people all the time with Zone of Genius is like when you can find that, it's like, how do you do more of that, right? Because you guys know as well as I do, in your jobs, you don't get to do it all the time, right? You do have to do other things. And so when you can focus on those things, it's really powerful for the team. Okay, last question. If you had a walk-up song when you guys, or maybe you do, when you get introduced, what would it be?
Mike, I'm going to have you pick mine because I have no idea. You know me. I'm not. I love all sorts of songs. I never know the name of them.
Mine would probably be "It's a Beautiful Day"
That's a
by
good
what is
one.
it, YouTube, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it. I try to remind myself that any day of volleyball is a pretty good day, and we're really lucky to do what we do. It's frustrating days, but we're incredibly, all of us are incredibly lucky to be working in sport at any level, but professionally. And so even when it's challenging, I just think that's an uplifting song. That was the first song that came to mind in
It's a
that
great
regard.
one.
Let's see, one for Cathy.
You got to be nice now.
I think Cathy would be something from like the late 80s, something like that. It would be like, I don't know, it'd be like Thunderstruck or something like that. I just think when Cathy enters the room, there's a presence to that. And I think,
Yeah.
the room is different when Cathy walks into it because she just has a big personality. She has a big voice. She has a big presence to her. And I think Thunderstruck comes out as just being like, she kind of hits the room with a boom when she walks into it. When Cathy's in the room for sure.
There you guys go. Those are your songs. Yeah, and add those to you guys can add those to your events now, right? Like when you guys are walking out now at the games, So awesome. Well, it was so great to chat with you guys about all the things with volleyball, with coaching, with mental, physical, and all of that. I actually learned so much too when you're out of the game for so long, like literally years. It's really cool to hear how volleyball is growing, and then also getting to see, like, I get to see where I live a lot of the next generation that's so involved. I played Michigan Elite my whole life, and so seeing that Michigan Elite is still around. I mean, of course, it wasn't going to go anywhere, but it's really cool to see all these like young kids now that are in 7th and 8th grade playing, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was around and kind of started when I was that age. So it's really cool to see the changes. So thank you guys.
Snyder came from there. She's on our team.
Oh, wow.
Snyder.
Yeah.
She plays, and she was at Michigan Elite. Yeah.
It's great. I will say, I think my parents probably didn't always love all the travel all the time, right? Nope. But I always appreciate what it brought me, right? The teams, the mental, the physical, all of that fun stuff. So thank you guys so much for being on the podcast to talk about all the things. And anything else you guys would add to our audience? No?
Just thanks for having us. And I appreciate everything you're doing for this area because it is needed. And I think you're focusing on a lot of things that matter, that make a difference, and not maybe what we are come to believe right now, because we've got to bring it back. And I think you're doing just that.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for tuning into today's podcast. If you didn't take away just one thing, I'm sure you took away 10 things that you had. I loved the conversations that we were able to have about where volleyball's going, what it means from a physical and mental standpoint, what it can look like from a team, and how we can take leadership and utilize that in our own lives. I think every time I learn from others in different roles than I am, when it comes to leadership, I think it's really powerful to see what we can do and what we can learn from them. And for me, I think some of the takeaways that I had is, how do you get your team ready to move to the next level? How are we making sure that we're all in it together? I also think it's about how are we preparing ourselves and staying in our lane, and kind of like, I would say, like putting not the blinders on, but like when a horse is like running and racing and they're just focused on what's ahead. I think many times we get very distracted. And so if you have a goal, think about like, how do I put those blinders on for a second here and like really focus on what's next for yourself. I think that that's going to be very powerful as well. So as you listen, I'd love to hear what you took away. I'd love for you to also check out the Grand Rapids Rise. I love pro volleyball. My husband and I watch a lot of different games, usually online, but we'll definitely be making a trip over to Grand Rapids to see it in person. It's such a phenomenal sport. And if you have anybody that is playing sports, you know how important it is to learn, to work together, to, work towards a goal. And I think that that's really powerful and can be really great for career readiness skills, but also take you to the next level too. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, sign up to our newsletter. And as I always say, continue to spread love and kindness to everybody that you meet, and have a great day. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Confident Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. So send me a message at podcast.lisatarkington.com. Don't forget, while you're there, to subscribe to our newsletter, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to spread the good by sharing this with someone in your life. Remember, you have the power to choose confidence every single day. Keep showing up, keep striving, and keep believing in your potential. I'm cheering you on, and I'll see you next time.